Have you ever imagined opening the door of your penthouse in New York and seeing, standing in the rain, the woman you loved, with her rounded belly, soaked hair, a delivery backpack on her back, and a look that says everything without needing a single word? That's exactly what happened to Nathan Cole, CEO of one of Manhattan's most valuable startups, 42 stories above the city, and the only person capable of making the entire world collapse in 2 seconds was standing right in front of him, pregnant, delivering food in the rain, looking at him as if no time had passed and as if at the same time an entire lifetime had passed. You're going to find out what happened that night. You're going to discover the secret she was carrying. And when it all comes to light, you'll understand why this story will stay in your mind for a long time. It was a Thursday night in October. New York was enveloped in that fine, persistent rain that wasn't quite a storm, but soaked everything, nonetheless. The sidewalks of Fifth Avenue gleamed under the yellow reflections of the taxis. Steam rose from the subway grates. The city pulsed in the way only New York pulses, noisy, indifferent, beautiful, and cruel all at once. On the 42nd floor of Meridian Tower, Nathan Cole stood facing the panoramic window of his apartment, a glass of whiskey in his hand, his tie loosened, his eyes lost in the lights below. It was the kind of night where you look at everything you've built and still feel like something is missing. The intercom rang. Nathan didn't even move. It was the third delivery order of the night. The office had sent dinner during the 8-hour meeting, but he hadn't touched anything. Now some assistant must have ordered something else. "You can leave it at the door," he said to the automatic intercom. But the doorman's voice on this side was different, hesitant. "Mr. Cole, the delivery person is here. She said you need to sign in person." Nathan frowned. "Sign? For delivery?" He walked to the door. He grabbed the signature tablet from the doorman's hand without even looking. He opened the apartment door, and then he saw. She stood in the hallway, the orange delivery backpack on her back, her dark hair plastered to her face, still damp from the rain she'd walked through outside. A yellow raincoat draped over her shoulders, one of those thin, flimsy raincoats that don't really offer any real protection. And the belly, rounded, unmistakable, advanced. Her eyes met his the exact second he opened the door. Nathan Cole, the man who had closed $300 million investment rounds without blinking, who had fired partners and negotiated with entire boards without losing his composure, was completely paralyzed. The tablet slipped from his fingers and hit the floor. "You," was all that came out of his mouth. She didn't answer immediately. She just looked at him. And in that look, there was something Nathan couldn't decipher. It wasn't anger. It wasn't pleading. It wasn't pure sadness. It was something more complex. It was the look of someone who had spent a long time carrying a weight alone and who, for a second, no longer knew if she wanted to continue carrying it. "The order is from apartment 4201, she said finally, her voice too firm for the situation. "2 sushi rolls and some miso soup." She took the bag out of her backpack and handed it to him. Nathan didn't move a muscle. "Sophia," he said, and that single word, her name on his lips after 3 years, broke something in the air between the two of them. 3 years earlier, Nathan Cole wasn't the CEO of anything. He was the co-founder of a logistics startup that operated out of a rented warehouse in Brooklyn. 12 employees, 3 old servers. An idea that everyone said wouldn't work, using artificial intelligence to route urban deliveries before it became what it is today. Sophia Marquez worked in the same building 2 floors above. She had a small, graphic design agency with 2 partners, 5 clients, a big dream, and a tight bank account. They met in an elevator. She was holding a huge stack of printed material samples. He had his laptop under his arm and his gaze fixed on his cell phone, answering emails. The door closed, the elevator jammed strangely, and Sophia's stack went straight to the floor. Nathan bent down with her to help gather everything up, without thinking. Automatic. "Thank you," she said, without looking at him. "You're welcome." he replied,
No worries, let me
and then
help
he
with that.
looked.
Oh, I am so
She had a look of
sorry.
concentration on her face that he never forgot,
Thanks.
as if the whole world could be falling apart around her, and she would still be focused on what she had in her hands. Dark eyes, hair tied up haphazardly, a tiny ink stain on her thumb that she clearly hadn't noticed. They exited the elevator together. "Do you work here?" he asked. "Second floor," she said. "You?" "Fifth." She nodded and walked away. Nathan stood there watching her disappear down the hallway,
Is this what you want?
and he had a strange feeling that he should have said something more. The following week, he purposely took too much coffee into the elevator and offered her some when the doors opened. "Do you do this to everyone?" she asked, amused, picking up the glass. "Only with those who drop paper on the floor," he said. She laughed, and that laugh, spontaneous, genuine, effortless, was the beginning of everything.
Think that's gonna work?
They started meeting during their lunch break, then on the stairs, which were faster than the elevator and somehow became their territory. Then on nights when they both stayed too late on their respective floors and crossed paths at the building's exit with that air of someone who had worked more than they should have. Their first kiss was one November night, standing outside the building while it was raining. She without an umbrella, he with one that was clearly breaking. They stood there under the ridiculous thing, both wet, laughing at the situation, until he stopped laughing and looked at her in a different way, and she left.
Of course, it's just so
For the next 6 months, Nathan and Sophia were inseparable, not in the dramatic, perfect way seen in movies, in the real, everyday, enjoyable way, which is much rarer and much more valuable. He liked waking up early. She hated it. She listened to music while she worked. He needed silence. He was overly organized. She was chaotic in just the right way. But when they were together, their differences didn't create friction. They created balance. Nathan would later say that Sophia was the only person who could make him stop. Stop working. Stop calculating. Stop planning your next move. Just being there. And for a man like him, that was the greatest gift anyone could give. In the 18th month of their relationship, Nathan's startup received an investment offer. It wasn't just any offer. It was Apex Ventures, one of the largest venture capital funds in the United States. $50 million on the table, in exchange for equity and a restructuring. Nathan went 3 nights without sleep. On the 4th night, he sat with Sophia at her kitchen table, with coffee that had gone cold without either of them touching it, and told her everything. "This is what you've always wanted," she said. "It's what I've always worked to have," he corrected. "I don't know if it's still what I want." She looked at him for a long moment. "You'll accept," she said simply. "How do you know?" "Because you've already accepted it in your head. You only came here so you wouldn't have to decide on your own." He accepted. And with acceptance came everything that comes with that kind of decision. Meetings that lasted until the early hours of the morning. Trips to San Francisco, to London, to Singapore. Lawyers, contracts, rebranding, new members who had strong opinions about everything. The Brooklyn warehouse was replaced by a 2-story office in Midtown. The 12 employees became 200. The startup became a real company, and Nathan became CEO. Sophia remained on the 2nd floor of the Brooklyn building, with her agency, her 5 clients who had become 12, and the dream that was growing at her own pace, a pace different from Nathan's, but no less real. At first, they found a way to maintain balance. She understood that he needed the trips. He understood that she needed stability. She didn't demand constant presence. He didn't demand that she drop everything to appear at gala events where wives and girlfriends smiled for photographers and talked about nothing. But maintaining that balance became increasingly difficult. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't betrayal. It wasn't any of those dramatic moments that appear in movies and make everything clear. It was something worse. It was the silent accumulation of small absences, phone calls that went to voicemail, dinners canceled at the last minute, weekends he planned and she looked forward to that turned into business trips on Friday afternoons. The growing, feeling on her part that she was in a relationship with a man who was always about to arrive, and who never actually did. And on his part, a guilt that he swallowed, rationalized, and pushed down with more work. The definitive conversation took place one night in March. She said, "Nathan, I need to know if I still exist for you outside of your schedule." He said, "Sophia, you know you're important, but now is a critical time for the company. When things stabilize." You said that 6 months ago, and 4 months ago, and 2 months ago. He remained silent. She picked up the coat. "When you know what you really want," she said, "call me." And he left. Nathan didn't call, not because he didn't want to, but because deep down, at that time, he thought she was exaggerating, that she would cool off, that they would talk when things stabilized, as they had always promised. Except things never settled down, and Sophia disappeared. She disappeared from social media. She changed her phone number. She closed her Brooklyn office and, according to a mutual friend, moved to another neighborhood. Nathan tried once. Just once. He sent a message to the old number, but it bounced back as undeliverable. And then, with the shame of someone who knows they made a mistake but doesn't know how to fix it, he let it go. If you've made it this far, you already know this story isn't simple, and what happens next will change everything you think you understand so far. If you're not already, subscribe to the channel, do it now. Press the red button below, because this is the kind of story you'll want to follow from beginning to end. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay with us. What Nathan didn't know, what nobody knew, because Sophia wasn't the type to ask for help, was what had happened to her in the months following the separation. The agency had closed, not all at once, in a dramatic way. It gradually emptied out. One client didn't renew. One partner moved to Portland. The other got pregnant and left. Sophia was left alone, holding on to what was left, relaunched herself as a freelancer, and tried for a while. But the design market had changed. AI tools had devoured half the jobs she did. Clients wanted faster, cheaper, more of everything. And she was tired of fighting against a tide that kept rising. Then she did something that surprised even herself. She stopped resisting. He put design aside for a while. He took a part-time job at a cafe in Williamsburg. He took courses that had nothing to do with what he had done before: photography, cooking, basic programming. It turned out well, in a strange and unexpected way. No grand plan, no pressure. And then she discovered she was pregnant. She sat on the bathroom floor of the small apartment she had rented in Queens, test in hand for a time she couldn't say how long. It could have been 5 minutes or 50. The first thing he felt wasn't fear. It was a strange clarity. She was going to have this child. Nothing else mattered. The bank account, the small apartment, the father who was on the other side of a relationship that ended over a year ago. None of it mattered. She was going to have this child, and she was going to handle it. Delivery came later, not as a plan, as a temporary solution that stuck. The app paid by the hour. She chose her own hours. She could work during the day and study online at night, because she had gone back to college, doing UX design remotely. Rainy nights were the worst. Not because of the cold. She had learned to dress warmly. But because of the exhaustion that weighed differently when you're 7 months pregnant, cautiously pedaling between taxis on Fifth Avenue, feeling the baby move inside you while you deliver food to someone who will eat while watching Netflix in a warm apartment. She never allowed herself to stay in that dark place for very long. She took a deep breath. She thought about the baby. She thought about what she was building. Slowly. The right way this time, and he kept going. That October night, she had accepted 2 more requests than she should have. She was too tired. When the app directed her to Meridian Tower, she didn't call the address. I should have called. When the doorman said the name, Cole, apartment 4201, something tightened in her stomach. But she went up. because Sophia Marcus wasn't the type to run away. Nathan was still standing in the doorway. She had held out the bag. He hadn't taken it. "Sophia," he said, again his voice lower this time. "Nathan," she replied, not as an emotional response, as a confirmation of fact, as if to say, "Yes, it's me. Now you can breathe." He looked at her belly. She saw where his gaze went, and for a second, just a second, something showed on her face. It wasn't anger. It was weariness. It was the weariness of a woman who had carried too much alone for too long, whose feet were wet on a Thursday night, and who just wanted to go home. "It's cold outside," he said. "Come inside." "It is not necessary, Sophia." There was something in his voice. It wasn't an order. It wasn't a plea. It was something more difficult. It was a man who realized in 2 seconds that he had failed in a way that couldn't be easily fixed, and that he was asking for just a minute to process it. She went inside. The apartment was exactly what she would have imagined if she had allowed herself to imagine. Tall, clean, minimalist in the way that expensive things are minimalist, effortlessly, the panoramic window with the entire city below, an abstract sculpture in the corner that probably cost more than 6 months of her rent. She stood near the door, the bag still in her hand. Nathan went to the kitchen, got a glass of water, and came back. He handed it to her. She took it, took a sip,
Perfect.
put it back. "Are you okay?" he asked. The most inadequate question in the world for the moment, and he knew it. "I'm working," she said. "I saw. So you have the answer." Silence. Outside, the rain beat against the window. Down below, New York continued its constant noise. Up here, the air felt heavy in a different way. "How far along have you been?" he asked, his gaze returning to her belly. Her jaw became rigid. 7 months. The math was simple. He did it quickly, the way he did with everything. And when he arrived at the answer, he felt the ground give way beneath his feet, the same way you feel when you're on a flight and real turbulence hits. 7 months ago, she was 2 months, pregnant, and 2 months before that, Sophia. "I need to go," she said. "I have 2 more orders on the app." "You're not leaving now." "Nathan, you have no right. You're pregnant. It's raining. It's 10 o'clock at night, and your feet are soaking wet in an apartment I should never have had." He stopped. He breathed. It started again. "Please, stay a minute. Just a minute." Sophia looked at him for a time that was too long to be comfortable and too short to be an answer. Then she took her backpack off her back and sat on the sofa, "just because my feet hurt." That's what she would tell herself later, that she had sat down because of her feet. But the truth, which she wasn't going to admit anytime soon, was that she needed a minute too. Wait. Before continuing, I need to know what you're thinking right now. Do you think Nathan is the father? Do you think she should have told him sooner? And most importantly, what would you do in his place? Leave your answers in the comments below. Because your responses to this part of the story always surprise me. And if you're enjoying this story, hit the like button now. It really helps the channel and ensures we can continue bringing you stories like this. Hold on tight now, because what comes next will change everything. Nathan sat across from her, not on the sofa, in the armchair, on the other side of the coffee table, a respectful distance, a conscious one. "How are you?"
Nathan,
"Really?" he said. "I'm really tired," she replied, without drama. "But I'm fine. You are living in Queens, in a small but nice place. Alone?"
por que você acha que isso
She looked at him.
importa?
The question had more than one layer, and they both knew it.
Transformar esse
Alone,
apartamento num apartamento
she
de uma
confirmed.
família?
Nathan ran a hand over his
Cancelar as
face.
viagens?
He had the expression of a man trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle and constantly finding pieces that don't fit where they should. 7
Você
months,
terminou comigo porque
he
o
said
seu
again,
trabalho sempre vinha em
almost to
primeiro
himself.
lugar.
"Nathan,
E eu não te culpo por
I
isso.
need to ask.
Você construiu
I know
algo
you need it.
incrível, Nathan. De verdade.
Is it mine? The
Mas
apartment
eu também
became
precisava construir
absolutely
algo.
silent.
E quando eu entendi
Outside, the
que seus
rain
planos
intensified
não
for a
eram
moment.
prioridade, me
The
invadiram.
drops lashed against the glass.
Eu saí.
Below, a siren blared through the night.
Suas decisões.
Sophia looked at him long enough for him to feel every second. Why do you think that matters? She asked. Sophia. No, really, why? If it's yours, what changes? What are you going to do? Turn this apartment into a family apartment? Cancel trips? Disappear from meetings at 10 o'clock at night? Her voice wasn't cruel. It was worse. It was honest. You broke up with me because your work always came first, she continued. And I don't blame you for that. You built something incredible, Nathan, truly. But I also needed to build something. And when I understood that I wasn't a priority in your plans, I left. And I made my own decisions.
Eu nunca disse
Your
que
decisions,
você era.
he repeated. And there was a specific weight to that repetition.
Porque eu não precisava que você
My
voltasse por
decisions,
obrigação.
she confirmed, with the firmness of someone who had spent months preparing for this conversation.
Isso não é justo.
Nathan stood up. He went to the window.
Mas é honesto.
He turned his back to it, looking out at the city. She looked at his silhouette against the lights.
Nada.
That posture she knew, shoulders slightly hunched, one hand in his pocket, the other pressing lightly against the glass. The posture he had when he was processing something he didn't know how to solve.
Eu preciso dormir.
She had loved him,
Pés destruídos.
that attitude.
Tenho uma consulta amanhã de manhã.
You weren't going to tell me.
Mais 3 horas de pedal
he said.
que bebi essa semana.
It wasn't an accusation.
Quarto de hóspedes.
6 quartos.
It was an
Eu durmo no
observation.
meu, você dorme no seu. Amanhã de
Sophia
manhã você
did
vai
not
pra consulta e a gente
respond,
conversa quando você tiver
and
descansado.
silence was the clearest answer she could have given.
Uma noite.
Why? He turned to her.
Boa noite.
If it's mine, and by my calculations it is, Sophia, I'm not stupid. I never said you were, then why didn't you tell me? She was silent for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, lower, more real. Because I didn't need you to come back out of obligation, she said. And because I needed to know I could do this on my own first. I needed to know I wasn't depending on anyone. Nathan looked at her. That's not fair. No, she agreed. But he's honest. He went back to the armchair. He sat down. He looked at her belly, at her eyes, at her feet, still slightly damp inside her delivery girl's sneakers. What do you need? He asked. Nothing. Sophia, what do you need right now? She opened her mouth, she closed it, and for the first time that night something different crossed her face. It wasn't weakness. It was the relaxation of armor that had been weighed down for too long. I need to sleep, she said finally. My feet are killing me. I have an appointment tomorrow morning and I did 3 more hours of cycling than I should have this week. Nathan kept staring at her. Stay here tonight, he said. She was about to open her mouth to refuse. In the guest room, he anticipated. 6 rooms, Sophia. I'll sleep in mine, you sleep in yours. Tomorrow morning you go to the appointment and we'll talk when you're rested. She looked at him for a long time. One night, she said. One night. At 2 in the morning, Nathan was sitting in the darkness of the room. I couldn't sleep. How could I? He stared at the city below. The rain had stopped. The wet sidewalks reflected the orange of the lampposts. A couple ran across the street laughing at something he couldn't hear. A taxi honked into the void. New York never stopped. He had always liked that. The feeling that the city was always awake with him, always in motion, always demanding more. Now, for the first time, it seemed exhausting. He picked up his cell phone. He opened the contact for his lawyer, David Haynes, who handled everything from contracts to media crises. He started typing a message and stopped. What was he going to say? I need paternity counseling? That would turn into paperwork, a lawsuit, clinical coldness. That wasn't it. He erased everything. She opened her phone's gallery. She scrolled back, way back, more than 3 years. She found the photos she had from her time in Brooklyn, the 2 of them at a party at a mutual friend's house. She with that easy laugh, her head slightly tilted. He looking at the camera but with his attention clearly on her. He stared at that photo for too long. At 3 in the morning, he heard footsteps in the hallway. Sophia was standing in the doorway of the room. She was wearing one of the large t-shirts she must have taken from her backpack. It wasn't possible to carry deliveries in a backpack. She had a separate bag that she had left at the entrance. She was holding a glass of water. "Can't you sleep?" she asked. "No." She came to the window. She stood beside him. The two of them looked out at the city, without the coffee table between them this time. "It's beautiful," she said. "I forget sometimes. I get so focused on not running anyone over while cycling that I forget how beautiful the city is. Do you ride a bicycle?" "Delivery app, Nathan. You can't do it by bus." "But with..." He looked at her belly. "Yes, at 7 months. Carefully. With the doctor's knowledge. Stop, I'm not going to faint. I am not. I know you didn't." She took a sip. "But you were thinking about it." He remained silent. "I never wanted you to come back out of guilt," she said, repeating something from their previous conversation but in a different, quieter way. "That still stands. What if I'm not coming back because of guilt?" She looked at him. "You don't have to answer now," he said. "But I need you to know that what I feel isn't guilt. It's..." He paused. He searched for the right word, with the care of someone who has learned that the wrong words are costly. "It's the recognition that I was stupid in a way that I can't undo, and that regardless of everything, this child, if it's mine, and I think it is, won't grow up without me being a part of its life, in whatever way you want, at whatever pace you need." Sophia stared at him for a while. Then he looked at the city. "I don't know if I trust you anymore," she said. "That's honest. Fair. But I think I can learn." She touched her belly, an unconscious gesture like someone who does it 50 times a day. "She deserves to have a father. If that father is the person I thought you were when we met in the elevator." Nathan kept looking at her hand on her stomach. "Her?" he said. Sophia smiled, the first genuine smile of the night. Small, controlled, but real. She confirmed. And for a moment, in an apartment 42 floors above New York, with the city awake below, and the rain having just stopped, on the sidewalk something that had been broken began, very slowly, very carefully to mend itself. In the morning, Nathan woke up on the sofa. He had fallen asleep there without realizing it, after Sophia returned to the room at 4 in the morning saying she needed to get some real sleep, or she'd show up to the appointment looking like a zombie. The October light streamed through the panoramic window. The city had been awake for hours. There was a note on the coffee table. Her handwriting, which he recognized even after 3 years, slightly slanted to the left with the A's in a different shape than the standard. "I went to the appointment. Thank you for the bed. S." Below is a phone number. New number. Nathan stared at the note for a while. Then he took out his phone and saved the number. He didn't text. He didn't call. He was the only one who saved it. At 10 in the morning, while on his way to a meeting at the office, stuck in a taxi in Park Avenue traffic with the rain, slowly starting to fall again, he received a message. From the new number. A photo. It was an ultrasound screen. Those black and white images that only make sense to those who can read, but which carry a weight impossible to explain to those who have never held one. And below the photo, just one word. She. Nathan stared at his phone screen for far too long, considering the traffic around him. The taxi honked. The driver said something. The rain was beating against the roof of the car. And Nathan Cole, CEO, founder, the man who had built everything himself and thought that was enough, realized that the most important thing he would ever build in his life was yet to come. And this time, he wasn't going to let it go. But what he didn't yet know What the photo didn't show, what Sophia hadn't yet said that night of careful confessions, was something that would change everything once again. Something the doctor had discovered during that morning's appointment. Something Sophia was about to call to tell. And when Nathan's phone rang as the taxi stopped at a red light on Park Avenue with rain pouring down on New York, he looked at the screen and saw her name. He answered. And on the other end of the line, Sophia took a deep breath before speaking. So can you imagine what Sophia is going to say? What did the doctor discover? What will change everything again for Nathan and for her? This story continues, and the next chapter is coming soon. But before you leave, hit the like button if this story touched you. This simple gesture makes all the difference for the channel. Subscribe to the channel here so you don't miss the next one. Hit the bell to be notified as soon as the next video comes out. And leave a comment. What do you think the doctor discovered? Do you think Nathan will be up to this second chance? I want to read each and every one of your responses. And now, watch the video that's playing on the screen. Because the next story is just as good as this one. Maybe even better. See you there.